They told my daughter she couldn't sit at the table she saved. My name is Nora, and wherever you are right now, I need you to stay with me for this one. Because what my family did to my 14-year-old daughter on the night she should have been celebrated, it changed everything. Have you ever watched someone you love pour their entire heart into something, only to have the people closest to them treat it like it never happened? Because that's exactly what I saw on a Friday night in September, and something inside me broke in a way that will never go back together. Let me start from the beginning. My father owned a small Italian restaurant in Savannah, Georgia, Gino's, named after his father, built with his bare hands in 1987. It was the kind of place where regulars knew every waiter's name, and the bread basket came before you even sat down. For 30 years, Gino's was the heart of our neighborhood. But by last spring, it was dying. Health inspection issues, outdated menu, staff quitting. My father was too proud to admit it, but the books were bleeding. He'd already taken a second mortgage on his house. My daughter Maya had grown up in that kitchen. She could make fresh pasta by the time she was 9. She knew which olive oil my father kept hidden in the back for special dishes only. She loved that restaurant the way some kids love Disneyland. It was her magic place. So when she heard Grandpa was thinking about closing Gino's, she came to me with tears in her eyes and said, "Mom, I want to help. Please let me help." I should have known then what we were walking into. But I said yes, because how do you say no to a child who loves that hard? Maya spent her entire summer at Gino's, not playing on her phone in the back, working. She woke up at 6 a.m. every single day, rode her bike 3 miles to the restaurant, and didn't come home until sunset. She reorganized the storage room. She deep-cleaned the kitchen until the stainless steel reflected your face. She researched food trends online and created a new appetizer menu, a mix of classic Italian with southern comfort. Things like fried mozzarella with peach chutney and sweet tea tiramisu. My father watched her work. He ate the test dishes. He even smiled once, which for him was the equivalent of a standing ovation. But here's what Maya didn't know, what I didn't know until later. My brother Kevin had been having private conversations with my father the entire time. Kevin, the golden child. Kevin, who hadn't set foot in that restaurant in over a decade. Kevin, who once told my father that Gino's was a sinking ship and he should just sell and move to Florida. Kevin had apparently flown in twice over the summer, met with my father behind closed doors, and pitched a plan. He'd bring in investors from Atlanta, rebrand the menu, modernize the interior. All Kevin needed was his name on the business. My father said yes. To Kevin, the son who never chopped an onion in that kitchen. The son who was embarrassed to tell his country club friends that his father owned a little pasta joint. And Maya? She found out the same way I did. Through a group text my mother sent to the whole family. Exciting news. Kevin is relaunching Gino's on September 20th. Investor dinner. Dress code. Formal. Adults only. Adults only. Those 2 words again. Like a stamp on my daughter's forehead that said you don't matter here. Maya was sitting next to me when I opened that text. She read it over my shoulder. I watched her face change not all at once, but slowly, like a light dimming. Her lips parted. Her eyes went from confused to hurt to something worse. Acceptance. Like she expected it. "It's okay, Mom," she whispered. Maybe the investors wouldn't want a kid around anyway. I put my phone down. I looked at my daughter, this girl who had spent 63 days scrubbing, cooking, creating, dreaming for a place that just told her she wasn't welcome. And I felt something I hadn't felt since the day I left her father a fury so quiet it scared me. I didn't text back. I didn't call anyone. I sat with it for exactly 1 hour. Then I made a decision. We weren't going to beg for a seat. We were going to build our own table. That night, I called my friend Denise, who ran a food blog with about 40,000 followers in the Savannah area. I told her everything. Not for sympathy, just the facts. My daughter redesigned a menu. Nobody credited her. She's not invited to the event celebrating her own work. Denise said 5 words. Give me 24 hours. The next morning, Denise posted a story. No names, no restaurant name, just a 14-year-old girl spent her entire summer saving her family's restaurant. Tonight, they're relaunching it without her. She's not invited. She's too young. But the menu they're serving? Every dish is hers. By noon, it had 4,000 shares. By 3 p.m., my phone was ringing off the hook. Local food writers. A producer from a Savannah morning show. 3 different restaurants offering to host Maya's dinner, a celebration of her recipes, on her terms, with her name on the door. I picked the best one. A beautiful courtyard restaurant downtown called Wren, owned by a woman named Patricia who had once been a teenage cook herself. She donated the entire venue for the night. No charge. Maya didn't know any of this yet. She was at school, sitting through algebra, probably still replaying that group text in her head. When I picked her up, she was quiet. She climbed into the passenger seat and stared out the window. I drove past Gino's on purpose. Through the window, we could see workers hanging new light fixtures. A banner being unfurled. Gino's A New Era. That's Kevin's font, Maya said flatly. He picked that font. It's terrible. I bit my lip to keep from laughing. Then I said, "How would you feel about cooking your menu for people who actually want to taste it?" She turned to me slowly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you've got a restaurant, a guest list, and about 200 people who want to meet the girl behind the sweet tea tiramisu." She stared at me for 10 full seconds. Then her chin trembled and she said, "Are you serious?" "Dead serious, baby." She cried the whole way home. Not sad tears. The kind that come when someone finally sees you. The night of September 20th, 2 things happened in Savannah. At Gino's, Kevin stood in a new suit, shaking hands with investors, taking credit for a menu he couldn't cook a single dish from. My father sat at the head of the table. Proud, oblivious, raising a glass to my son's vision. 6 blocks away, at Wren. My daughter stood in a borrowed chef's coat with her name embroidered on it, a gift from Patricia, and cooked for 214 people. Every single dish was hers. The fried mozzarella with peach chutney. The rosemary focaccia with honey butter. The braised short ribs with grits she'd perfected after 11 tries in Grandpa's kitchen. And for dessert, the sweet tea tiramisu that tasted like Savannah in a glass cup. People waited in line outside. Not because of hype, because they'd read Denise's story and felt something. They came holding printouts of the blog post. They came with their own daughters. One woman drove 2 hours from Charleston with her 12-year-old who wanted to be a chef and needed to see that girls like her mattered. Maya didn't just cook that night. She spoke. Unscripted, standing on a milk crate behind the pass, holding a wooden spoon like a microphone. "I spent my whole summer in a kitchen that smells like garlic and old wood," she said. "I did it because I love my grandpa. I did it because I thought if I worked hard enough, they'd let me stay. But I learned something. You shouldn't have to earn a seat with the people who are supposed to love you. So I'm done earning. Tonight, I'm just cooking." The room went dead silent. Then the applause started, and it didn't stop for a full minute. I stood in the back corner, crying into a napkin, and I didn't care who saw. Around 9 p.m., something happened that I didn't expect. My mother walked in. She was wearing the same dress she'd worn to Gino's earlier. Her makeup was perfect. Her purse was clutched tight against her body like a shield. She stood near the entrance, scanning the room, and when her eyes found Maya behind the counter, laughing with a customer, she went pale. I walked over. I didn't rush. "Surprised?" I said. She swallowed hard. "Your father is furious." Someone showed him the blog post. "The investors are asking questions." "Kevin is." "I don't care about Kevin." She blinked. "I care about the girl you uninvited," I said, keeping my voice low and steady. "The one who spent 63 days in that kitchen. The one who created every dish Kevin is passing off as his own tonight. She's 14 years old, Mom, and you couldn't even fight for her." Her mouth opened, then closed. She looked around at the packed room, the string lights, the laughter, and I watched something cross her face. Not guilt exactly. Recognition. "She did all this?" she whispered. "No," I said. "People who actually value her did this. She just cooked." My mother stood there for another 30 seconds. Then she turned and walked out without saying goodbye. I let her go. By midnight, the courtyard was still buzzing. People exchanged numbers. A local chef offered Maya a summer apprenticeship. 3 food bloggers had already posted reviews. One of them wrote a line that stuck with me. I came for the food. I stayed because a 14-year-old reminded me what courage tastes like. 2 days later, the fallout began. My father called. Not to apologize. To lecture. You humiliated this family, he said, his voice tight and controlled, the way it gets when he's seething but refuses to raise his voice. You took private business and made it a circus. Kevin's investors are pulling back. Do you understand what you've done? I let him finish. Then I said, do you understand what you did? She biked 3 miles every morning for 2 months. She fixed your walk-in cooler with a YouTube video and a wrench because you couldn't afford a repairman. She created a menu that people drove 2 hours to taste. And you gave her brother the credit and told her she wasn't welcome. Silence. She's a child, Nora. She wouldn't have fit in at an investor dinner. She fit in fine when she was scrubbing your grease traps in July. He hung up. I expected that. What I didn't expect was the letter. 3 days after the call, a certified envelope arrived. Thick, cream-colored. From my father's attorney. Inside was a formal notice. I was being removed from the restaurant's ownership documents. My small share, the 5% my father had promised me years ago when I helped him through his first financial crisis, was being transferred to Kevin. Additionally, my daughter was formally banned from the Geno's premises. Banned. They put it in writing. A 14-year-old girl, banned from the restaurant she helped save. Maya found me sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the letter. She picked it up, read it slowly, and put it down. He banned me? She said. Yes. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that nearly broke me with its calm. Good. I was going to quit anyway. The walk-in still leaks, by the way. I never told him because I was going to fix it next week. I reached for her hand. She squeezed mine, and in that squeeze I felt something I hadn't expected. She wasn't broken. She was done. There's a difference. That week, something shifted publicly. Denise's blog post had found its way to a regional food magazine. Then a podcast about family businesses and toxic dynamics picked it up. Then a producer from a Food Network digital series called, asking if Maya would be interested in appearing on a segment about young chefs overcoming adversity. I asked Maya. She thought about it for 2 days. Then she said, only if I get to cook. I'm not going on TV to cry about Grandpa. I'm going on TV to make tiramisu. They filmed the segment in our kitchen. Maya wore her chef's coat, the one with her name on it. She made 3 dishes in 20 minutes, narrated every step, and when the host asked, what drives you to cook? She said, I cook because it's the one place where what I give and what people receive are the same thing. Nobody can rewrite a plate of food. The segment aired on a Thursday. By Saturday, it had 2 million views. The comments were flooded. Parents tagging their kids, chefs offering mentorship, women writing, this is what my father did to me too. And then the offers started coming. A culinary school in Atlanta offered a full scholarship for when she turned 18. A local restaurant group wanted to back a pop-up series featuring her menu. A publisher reached out about a cookbook, not a full one yet, just a proposal, a conversation. Maya sat cross-legged on her bed, scrolling through emails on my laptop, and said, Mom, people want to pay me to cook my food. Your food, I repeated. Not Grandpa's. Not Kevin's. Yours. She smiled. The real kind. The kind I hadn't seen since June. Meanwhile, Geno's was crumbling. Without Maya's menu, the relaunch flopped. Kevin's modern Italian concept was stale. The investors pulled out within a month. Yelp reviews mentioned bland reinvention and lost its soul. My father tried to bring back the old dishes, but something was missing. I knew what it was. He'd never admit it. My brother called me once, late at night, his voice thick with something that might have been whiskey or might have been shame. Dad's talking about closing for good, he said. That's unfortunate, I replied. I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want Geno's to die. But I wasn't going to save it again. Neither was my daughter. Could Maya? Could she maybe consult? Help us fix the menu? I almost laughed. You banned her, Kevin. Legally, on paper. You send a 14-year-old a cease and desist for a restaurant she mopped the floors of for free. He didn't have an answer for that. Thanksgiving came. My mother called, trying to arrange the holiday like nothing had happened. We'll do it at our house. I'll make the turkey. You bring a side. I said, we're doing Thanksgiving at our place this year. Maya's cooking. You're welcome to come, but you should know she's making the guest list. Not me. My mother sputtered. You're letting a child decide. She's not just a child. She's the person you all underestimated. And in this house, she has a voice. Thanksgiving at our house had 22 people. None of them were my parents. None of them were Kevin. Every single one of them had been at Ren that night in September. Maya made a 14-pound turkey with a brown butter herb crust she invented herself. She made roasted sweet potatoes with marshmallow brulee. She made cornbread stuffing with Italian sausage, a Savannah meets Geno's fusion that made people close their eyes when they tasted it. After dinner, Maya stood up and said, I want to do something. I want to start a program for kids who love cooking but don't have a kitchen that believes in them. I want to call it Open Seat. The table went quiet. Because everyone deserves a place at the table, she continued. And if your family won't give you one, I will. Denise, sitting at the far end, raised her glass. I'm in. Patricia, from Ren, raised hers. Me too. One by one, every person at that table raised a glass. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, eyes burning, and held my daughter's hand under the table. By December, Open Seat had a website. By January, 3 Savannah restaurants had volunteered kitchen space for Saturday workshops. By February, 17 kids between the ages of 12 and 17 had enrolled. Maya taught the first class herself. She stood at the front of a commercial kitchen in her chef's coat and said, Rule number 1. Nobody gets to tell you your food isn't good enough until they've tasted it. A local news crew covered the first class. The segment opened with Maya cracking eggs and ended with a 12-year-old boy in a foster home saying, This is the first time anyone asked me what I wanted to make instead of what I should eat. My father saw the news segment. I know because my mother told my aunt, who told my cousin, who told me. Apparently, he watched it twice, then went into his study and closed the door. A week later, a voicemail appeared on Maya's phone. She played it on speaker while we were making dinner. Maya. It's Grandpa, Long pause. Heavy breathing. I made a mistake. A lot of mistakes. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want you to know. The tiramisu. It was the best thing anyone ever made in my kitchen. And I should have told you that. I should have told everyone. Maya listened. She saved the voicemail. Then she set the phone down and went back to slicing tomatoes. You okay? I asked. Yeah. She said, I'm not mad at him anymore, but I'm not going back either. He can come to Open Seat if he wants. We have an extra apron. I didn't push it, because here's what I've learned through all of this. Forgiveness isn't a door you walk back through. It's a window you open to let fresh air in while you keep moving forward. My daughter doesn't owe anyone reconciliation. She doesn't owe anyone access. She gave her summer, her creativity, her sweat to people who erased her, and instead of becoming bitter, she built something beautiful from the ashes of their rejection. Open Seat now has a waiting list. Maya was invited to speak at a youth culinary summit in New York this spring. The publisher came back with a real offer, not just a proposal, a deal. For a book called Open Seat, Recipes for the Kids Who Got Left Out. And Geno's? Last I heard, it's still open. Barely. My father hired a new chef who makes decent carbonara, but nothing anyone drives across town for. The walk-in cooler finally broke for good. Kevin went back to Atlanta. Sometimes I drive past Geno's on my way to pick up Maya from her Saturday workshop. I slow down just enough to see the half-empty dining room through the window. And I don't feel anger. I feel something stranger, gratitude. Because if they hadn't pushed my daughter out, she never would have discovered she could stand on her own. Last week, Maya came home with flour on her cheek and a grin that could light up a city block. Mom, she said. A girl in my class today, she's 13, lives with her grandma, never cooked before she made her first risotto, and when she tasted it, she started crying. She said, I didn't know I could make something this beautiful. Maya's eyes glistened. That's why I do this. And I thought about that text my mother sent. Adults only, and I smiled. Because my daughter didn't fight for a seat at their table. She built a kitchen where nobody gets turned away. And every Saturday morning, when those kids tie their aprons and pick up their whisks, I hear the sound of something my family never gave us. A place where showing up is enough. And this time, no one gets left out.